Unfortunately, nothing new regarding the top of the Formula One 2024 rankings. Whether it's a qualifying session, the race, or the championship, Max Verstappen is always leading. As if the world champion wasn't enough, Red Bull can once again count on Sergio Perez, who perfectly secured second place on the familiar track of Jeddah to achieve another 1-2 finish within 8 days. The technical superiority is sadly the same as in the 2023 Formula One campaign. The shapes and concepts of the Red Bull single-seater have changed, but at least in this very early part of the season, it's hard to find differences compared to the pace that last year allowed Red Bull to secure 21 victories in 22 races. The closest competitors, especially Scuderia Ferrari, will try to push on the development program as they should. But today, if we talk in terms of the gap between Red Bull and the rest of the pack, we are still in 2023. Charles Leclerc's face at the end of the race said a lot. The Monegasque driver knows he did his best, in qualifying and in the race. But today, for those not driving an RB20 single-seater, doing your best means taking the third step on the podium. A well-known script due to the number of repeats seen over and over. Charles Leclerc got a small satisfaction by snagging the point for the fastest lap, but it's an exploit of 1 lap in a race of 50. At the Jeddah circuit, Scuderia Ferrari suffered from a problem that marks a trend reversal for the Italian side. Charles Leclerc got the most out of his car in the last third of the race, a period that used to be a minefield for the Scuderia. There was no problem in terms of management, as confirmed by the Monegasque driver at the end of the race. But there was a problem, was the tire warm-up. The first laps of each stint, at the start and after the pit stop, were the most difficult for Charles Leclerc. After the start, he had to yield to Sergio Perez, and after switching to the hard tires, he saw the Mexican pull away. The choice to use a configuration with higher aerodynamic load was probably related to this issue, but the trouble was at most limited, not at all solved. The Prancing Horses Garage rightly celebrated the excellent result of Oliver Bearman, with most of the attention focusing on the young British driver in his first Formula One Grand Prix, which he finished in 7th place under the checkered flag. The 6 points scored by Oliver Bearman, who gave his all until the last meters, are golden. He was smart to avoid problems in the chaos at the start. He was ready at the time of the pit stop, and increasingly comfortable with the single-seater lap after lap, despite the effects of fatigue in the last 15 laps. 11 laps from the end of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton were behind him, 6 seconds behind with fresh soft tires, and everything suggested that the Ferrari Driver Academy member would be easy prey. It turned out differently. Lap after lap, the 18-year-old Brit lowered his times, never losing concentration and rightfully catching his breath only after the checkered flag. The kid has impressed all of us, and just for that, he should be given uncritical respect or admiration. In a Formula One that has long ceased to amaze us as we would expect from this sport that we continue to love. A sport that, unfortunately, in order to raise the interest threshold, needs a scandal of suspected harassment supported by an anonymous email. But let's not get sidetracked, especially since the kid has never risked going off track in his first Formula One weekend. We were talking about him, about how Oliver Bearman put every muscle fiber in service of the SF24 and his interpretation of it. Yes, because it would be trivial to say that any of these cars is driven. The modern Formula One cars require an interpretation through which the driver can harmonize with every component of the machine. For an 18-year-old who unexpectedly finds himself moving from Formula 2 to Formula 1, the athletic aspect, without quotes, becomes fundamental. The strains on the neck, deltoids, back and shoulder muscles in general were well illustrated by Oliver Bearman's distorted expression when, once the helmet and mask were removed, he showed he had sweated out a river. The very good performance in qualifying and the excellent race, which was a further step forward, are not, however, the most surprising aspects of the weekend of this rising star. His wisdom and the clarity of the analyses that he managed to communicate, dead tired via radio just after the race, show us that class and talent truly become decisive when individuals in any field show themselves to be intelligent. And Ferrari Driver Academy member Oliver Bearman is, among many other things. Ferrari leaves Saudi Arabia confirming itself as the second force also in terms of numbers, with 22 points against McLaren's 16. The Italian side is far from Red Bull, but others are worse off. A very beautiful race by Lando Norris helped the team's overall balance, while things are not going well for Mercedes in this start of the 2024 Formula One Championship. George Russell tried all race to attack Fernando Alonso, but even when he had the DRS available, there was no real battle. Lewis Hamilton had some moments of glory staying on track during the safety car period, but once the race resumed, the bitter reality returned. Behind Red Bull, there is Ferrari, while the rest of the group is even further away.